The whispers grew louder, almost deafening. He could hear them now, not just the woman's voice, but thousands of voices crying, screaming, begging for release. It was as if the entire building itself was alive, its walls soaked in torment and regret. Suddenly, the woman reached out toward him with long, spindly fingers, her nails sharp and jagged, like broken glass. The air around her seemed to shimmer, as though she was no longer fully part of this world. "You cannot escape your fate, Marcus." Her fingers touched his shoulder, and a freezing coldness spread through his body like poison. His skin tingled, his veins burning with an unnatural chill that took hold of his very soul. "Marcus!" Eli yelled, his voice panicked, but the words were lost in the growing silence. It was as if the room had swallowed them whole. Marcus's vision blurred, and he felt himself losing control, his body frozen in place. The woman's eyes pierced into him, and for the first time, he saw something in them, something almost like pity. But then it was gone. The room twisted violently. The walls bent, the ceiling caved in, and the floor itself began to ripple, like water disturbed by a stone. With one final horrific scream, the woman dissolved into the air, her form disappearing like smoke in the wind. Everything went dark. The darkness enveloped them. For a moment, there was nothing, no sound, no light, no warmth. Just the suffocating silence and an unnatural stillness that stretched on forever. The chill that had taken over their bodies intensified, making it feel like they were drowning in ice-cold water. Marcus could hear his own breath, ragged and shallow, but nothing else. His mind raced, trying to grasp what had just happened. The woman, the thing that had tormented them, was gone. But the silence, the oppressive weight of the void, still lingered in the air. It wasn't right. They weren't safe. "Marcus? Eli?" Jade's voice trembled, barely audible in the dark. "Where are we?" Marcus reached out, his hand brushing against something solid, an invisible barrier that seemed to block his path. He could feel it pressing against his skin, a coldness that seeped deeper than anything he'd ever known. "We're trapped," Eli's voice cracked, panic lacing every word. We're stuck in here. This isn't over. This can't be over." But as the words left his mouth, the air began to stir again. Faint, distant whispers fluttered at the edges of their consciousness, like the soft rustling of paper. The voices weren't clear at first, but as they grew louder, they became more distinct. They were calling to them, beckoning them forward. "Come closer." Marcus's heart pounded in his chest. He strained his ears, trying to make sense of the words. It was hard to focus, the overwhelming darkness clouding his thoughts. "You're close now. Just a little farther." The whispers wrapped around him, twisting into something more sinister, more forceful. They were no longer distant. They were inside his head. "It's not too late. The other side. It will claim you too." Jade gasped. "That's it. I heard that voice before. It's hers. It's her again." Eli's hand shot out to grab Marcus's arm. "We have to move. We can't stay here." The whispers. "They want us to walk into it. They want us to." Before he could finish, the darkness around them suddenly splintered. There was a flash, a flicker of light in the distance. It was faint at first, but it grew, pulling them forward, drawing them like moths to a flame. And then, without warning, the ground beneath them shifted. The world around them twisted and spun violently, and before they could react, they were falling through an endless abyss. Their bodies twisted and turned in midair, weightless, disoriented, and terrified. The light grew brighter, brighter than it should have been. It was blinding now, and the more they fell, the more it seemed to draw them in, pulling them towards some unknown destination. And then the fall stopped. With a sudden, violent jolt, they landed hard on the ground. But this wasn't the same ground as before. The air felt thick with decay, the smell of rot and dampness overwhelming their senses. The floor beneath them was cold, wet, and slick, as though they had landed in a place far removed from a reality they had known. They looked around, their eyes adjusting to the dim light that filtered through an eerie mist. "Where are we?" Marcus's voice was a hoarse whisper. His chest felt tight, as if the very air had weight. The world around them was wrong. There was no sky, no stars. Just an expanse of empty land, stretching on in every direction. Towering, twisted trees with gnarled branches reached toward the blackened sky. The ground was a sickly gray, covered in a thick fog that seemed to writhe beneath their feet. "This isn't real," Jade muttered, her voice shaking. This is like a dream. Or hell. We're in hell. But it didn't feel like hell. Hell was a place of fire and torment. This place, this space between worlds, was something worse. It was cold, forgotten, and abandoned, like a long-forgotten nightmare that had come to life. And then they saw it. At the far end of the bleak expanse stood an old, decaying building, a mansion, perhaps, or a church. It was hard to tell in the fog, but there was something about it that felt familiar. It was as if it was pulling them in, drawing them closer, just like the woman had. Jade's hand gripped Marcus's arm tightly. That place, it's the hotel. It's the hotel we were in before. Marcus nodded, his mind struggling to make sense of the connection. This wasn't just any hotel. This was the Holloway house, the place that had brought them here. But now it was something different, something worse. And the whispers, they weren't just distant voices anymore. They were everywhere. "Welcome back," a voice hissed in Marcus's ear. It was the woman's voice again. "Welcome to the other side. Welcome to where you belong." Suddenly, the ground beneath them began to shake. The air crackled with energy as the very earth groaned under an unseen force. Something was rising. Something ancient. Something that had been waiting for them to arrive. You opened the door. Now you will never leave. The mansion loomed closer now, its silhouette growing in the mist. And behind them, the sky seemed to open wide, revealing endless darkness, something that stretched infinitely beyond their understanding. There was no turning back. The whispering rose into a low chant, vibrating through the floor, the air, and their bones. Marcus clutched Jade's hand, his knuckles white. Eli stood frozen behind them, eyes wide, barely blinking. Then, without warning, light. But wasn't the hallway lights or the warm orange glow of the hotel lobby. It was sterile, pale, cold, like a flickering hospital lamp from somewhere far below the earth. It pulsed in the distance, growing closer, yet everything around them stayed pitch black. A figure emerged in that flickering haze. Not the woman in white. This was something else. Thayer, wrapped in shadow like it wore the void itself. And behind it, dozens of doors suspended in midair, floating like relics of forgotten memories. Each one bore the number 313. Jade backed up, but her feet wouldn't move. This is where people go," she whispered. "The ones who never check out. This place, it doesn't exist in our world." The figure's face was featureless, but when it raised its arm, pointing toward one of the doors, the choice became clear. A door appeared before them, just like their room back at the hotel, but cracked open, revealing a window behind it. A window to their world. The hotel lobby. Daylight. Freedom. Marcus didn't wait. He ran, dragging Jade with him. Eli hesitated for only a second longer, then sprinted after them. As they crossed the threshold, the world around them collapsed, the chants exploding into screams. Doors snapped shut behind them, one after another, echoing like gunshots in a coffin. And then, silence. They tumbled into the lobby. It was morning. Normal. People stood around, chatting, checking in. The clerk glanced at them, confused. "You three okay?" she asked. "You weren't in that sealed wing, were you?" Marcus turned, trembling. "Room 313. The clerk tilted her head. "Sir, this hotel doesn't have a room 313. That part of the hotel burned down in 1997. The three looked at each other, speechless. When they turned back, the clerk was gone. So was the lobby. And once again, they stood in front of room 313. Door ajar. Waiting. Always waiting. Some places don't just trap the lost. They choose them.